So having an overview of material handling equipment includes transport equipments, that is industrial trucks, automated guided vehicles, monorails, conveyors, cranes and hoist. Next, storage system that includes bulk storage, rack systems, shelvings and bins, drawer storage, automated storage systems. Now, unitizing equipments like pallets, small bins, containers, etc. Now, identification and tracking systems. That is, a material handling equipment system is further subdivided into the four following categories. That is, transport equipments, different kinds of equipments used for transportation. Now, different systems used for storing. Then, for unitizing equipments like palletizers, then containers, tote bins, etc. And last one is how to identify the different materials by giving some kind of codes, classifications, or some kind of identification techniques like radio frequency identification techniques, etc. And finally, a tracking system. Consideration in material handling system design. While designing a material handling system, the first category we have to discuss or we have to consider is the material characteristic. Now, under material characteristic, we have different categories. The first one is physical state, whether it is solid, liquid or gas. Then size, what volume, length, width, height. Next one is weight, what is the weight per piece or weight per volume. Then shape, whether it is a long, flat, round, square, depending upon the geometry. Then condition, whether it is hot, cold or wet, etc. The next category is safety risk and risk of damage, whether it is explosive, flammable, toxic, fragile, etc. Next consideration in material handling system design is the flow rate. Suppose we have to move over a short distance and we have low quantity to be moved, we can depend on either a manual handling using some kind of hand trucks. And suppose we have to move long distance with low quantity, you can either use a powered truck or unit load automated guided vehicle. Now you have short distance but high quantity, you may depend on conveyors. And if you have high quantity and long distance, again you can use conveyors and automated guided trains, automated guided vehicle trains. So depending upon the distance and depending upon the quantity moved, that is the flow rate, you can select suitable material handling systems. The next consideration in material handling system design is about the plant layout. Now we have already studied the different types of layout types. So suppose we just take a fixed position layout. The characteristics is for a large product size and low production rate. For such cases you may use cranes, hoist or industrial trucks. Now if it's a process type of layout, there is a variation in the product and processing and low and medium production rates are happening, you can go for hand trucks, forklift, then automated guided vehicles. Now if it's a product type layout, that is limited product variety with high production rate, conveyors for product flow trucks to deliver components and station. This can be very prominently seen in automobile industry wherein the product is being given the important. Major equipment categories. Transport equipment. Equipment used to move material from one location to another, example between workplace and between a loading dock and a storage area, etc. The major subcategories of transport equipments are conveyors, cranes and industrial trucks. Material can also be transported usually using no equipment also. That is among the major category. The first category is about the transport equipment. That is the main function is to transport from one place to another. Second category is positioning equipment. Equipment used to handle material at a single location, that is to feed or to manipulate material so that they are in correct position for subsequent handling, machining, transport or storage. Unlike transport equipment, positioning equipment is usually used for handling a single workpiece. Material can also be positioned manually using no equipment. So positioning equipment means only to position the equipment or the position the material for the right positioning or the right place. For example, it may be for loading a workpiece to a turning center or a machining center, or loading materials or charging the materials for a furnace, etc. The next category is unit load formation equipment. Equipment used to restrict materials so that they maintain their integrity when handled a single load during transport and for storage. If materials are self-restraining, that is a single part or self-interlocking parts, then they can be formed into unit load with no equipment. For example, some material which do not have a regular geometry, they may be made to function as a unit load principle or a unit load capacity by some kind of equipments. And this may not be required if they have a good geometry. For example, stacking of bricks, since it has a regular geometry, it does not require a unit load formation equipment. So some equipments are exclusively for making the load as a unit load. So such equipments are called unit load formation equipment. Next category is about the storage equipment. Equipment used for holding or buffering materials over a period of time. Some storage equipments may include the transport of materials. If the materials are block stacked directly on floor, then no storage equipment is required. So storage equipment especially means you are going to delay the transport by few minutes or hours. For example, a storage bin or a storage pallet can be considered as a storage equipment. And if you have ample space of storing on the floor space, there is no need of a storage equipment. The parking lots wherein the car has been stacked, automated parking systems or elevated parking stations are example of a storage equipment which works on a scissor lift. So one car above the another, it can be stacked based on the scissor expansion, the scissor lift expansion, which you see in the shopping malls and cinema theaters. Now the next category is identification and control equipment. Equipment used to collect and communicate the information that is used to coordinate the flow materials within a facility and between a facility and its suppliers and customers. The identification of materials and associated control can be performed manually with no specialized equipment. Sometimes you require to track your inventory control where the material is being flow. So there are some methods to track them and to identify them. Such equipments are called identification and control equipments. Under material handling equipment types, under the transport equipments, we mainly have conveyors, cranes and industrial trucks. Under conveyors, we have different types of conveyors, namely chute conveyors, wheel conveyor, roller conveyor, chain conveyor, slat conveyor, flat belt conveyor, magnetic belt conveyor, tuft belt conveyor, bucket conveyor, vibrating conveyor, screw conveyor, pneumatic conveyor, vertical conveyor, cart-on track conveyor, torque conveyor, trolley conveyor, power and free conveyor, monorails and sortation conveyors. These different types of conveyors are being previously discussed in the module 4, and also these are based on the different types of principles or different types of components being used on the conveyors. These kind of classification. The next one is of cranes, the jib crane, bridge crane, gantry crane, stacker crane. Then industrial trucks. It can be a hand truck, pallet truck, walkie stacker, pallet truck, platform truck, then counterbalance lift truck, narrow aisle straddle truck, narrow aisle reach truck, turret truck, order picker, side loader, tractor trailer, personal and burden carrier, automated guided vehicle. So these are the different types of industrial trucks we can use under the transport equipments. And there is no equipment, that is a manual transportation can also be taken under the different material handling equipments.